An actual NASA space scientist on the Bedley Brothers? Are you kidding me? And he's working on space mining of all things. Stay tuned.
We are very, very fortunate today to have with us Dr. Phil Metzger. He's a planetary scientist. He's been focusing on space mining and really what he would probably call applied planetary science specialist. He's a speaker. He is a judge for the NASA Robotics Mining Competition. He's a author, and we're really appreciating him being a guest today on our show. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
Why don't you start us off by giving a little bit of background into your passion in science and what's your kind of focus?
Sure. So I do study planetary science, and I call myself an applied planetary science because I believe we're on the cusp of getting humanity beyond a single planet. Technology has reached the point where the barrier to space is lower than ever before. Robotics have reached the point where we can start to do things in space, preparing the way for us to follow behind. And I think that's really the key that's going to open up space. And I expect within the next few decades, we're going to see the economic sphere of humanity extending beyond planet Earth, and great things are going to follow in the following decades.
And when you say that economic sphere, you're talking about different kind of mining possibilities on the different planets, or give us some more understanding of that.
Sure. Well, here on the Earth, it's pretty easy for us to spread around, and we've already spread all over the whole globe except for Antarctica because it's too cold to live there. But just about everywhere else on Earth, when we showed up, there was already a biosphere that supported our life and made it fairly easy for us to start up industry and bring civilization to all the continents of the Earth. But when you go outside the Earth, what you find generally would be a barren planet. You'll find rocks, sunlight, you'll usually find ice or some other kind of volatiles, but what it lacks is life to transform those basic resources into things that we require as humans. But now, because of robotics, we can do the mining to go out and grab the regolith and the rocks, and we can do the processing that plants and animals have done here and create things that we need. We can create basically designer life, which is robotic life, to not just prepare food, a food chain for us, but to build buildings and to fuel up our spaceships and basically to make it easy for us to extend ourselves beyond planet Earth. So it starts with mining, and after the mining, then we have chemical engineering and mechanical and aerospace engineering, using the resources to extend humanity, extend civilization outside of Earth.
And when you talk about that being a history guy, it connects me to like the past almost too. I mean, you saw that happen when there was expansion of, humankind, from different continents and things like that. They went in and they got the natural resources and then built from there. So it's pretty amazing to hear this. Tell us more about how science and looking at students, since this is in the next few decades. Our current students are going to be the ones that are maybe making those discoveries. Are going to be the ones that are the first ones to have that impact or whatever it might be. What's something that our kids now can be doing to prepare themselves for that?
Well, obviously the STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, and math, are going to be in high demand when we start developing industry in space. I like to point out that the resources of our solar system are literally billions of times more abundant than the resources on planet Earth. And when we have robotics that can leverage those kinds of resources and leverage our labor, right now in civilization we're leveraging ourselves 1,000 to 1 in the amount of energy that we use. But when we go outside the Earth, we could go 1,000,000 to 1 or 1,000,000,000 to 1. And so the productivity of our civilization is, I think, on the verge of growing tremendously. So this sort of an economy in space is going to require a lot of engineering, a lot of technology, a lot of mathematics. But I also like to point out that there's going to be room for other fields to contribute to this as well. We need people that can do the speak to the politicians and help them catch the vision for it. We need people that can do the fundraising. So I see this as an opportunity for all of civilization.
Now, our audience is mostly teachers, educators, principals, and the like. What message would you give to them about where we need to be heading in our education system. I know you go out to schools and you talk to kids in elementary school and middle school and all the way up through college. What's your message for people that are in the business of education these days?
Well, I like to tell people, instead of thinking outside the box, I like to say, let's think outside the sphere. We naturally think of our world as being a planet, but couple thousand years ago, the word world didn't mean a planet, it meant a region, and we've changed the meaning of world. Well, it's time to change it again. World should now be a solar system. And so let's think outside the sphere. Let's get people to have a bigger vision for what's possible. When I go speaking publicly, after I talk, invariably the young people will come up and flock around me and start asking questions and asking, what do I have to study in school? I want to do this, they say. I want to be involved in this. So I don't see any shortage of enthusiasm among young people when you cast this big vision for what's possible. And by the way, the vision that I'm trying to promote is, it's not just science and science fiction-y type stuff, it's also humanitarian and saving our environment here on planet Earth, helping our globe. I believe that the global problems that we have are all symptoms of the same problem. It's that we have run up to the next barrier to the growth of civilization, and we're squeezing up against that barrier. The barrier is that we've run out of surface area on the globe, and the resources are becoming short, and it's time to go beyond the limit of a planet. So if we can get beyond the limit of our planet, relieve the burden on our globe, we can start to clean up the environment, clean up the atmosphere, and we can, with a much more vibrant economy, we can help end poverty. So when we're using resources of space, bringing energy down, clean energy, we can help solve the problems of other countries trying to reach a good standard of living. So when I present this to students, I'm bringing together these things that they think are cool, saving the Earth and flying spaceships, and they're in the same program, and they just resonate with that. So I think casting this big vision gets students excited, and it makes them want to learn, because then they want to find out how to fit into it.
Very cool. Awesome. Very cool. And so if you were to imagine, what that student looks like coming into your field, and the skills they might have, you're thinking more along the lines, instead of only science knowledge, creativity, like being able to analyze problems and come up with different solutions. And I love that. Think outside of the sphere. That's awesome.
And you had mentioned about you encourage students to get involved in competitions. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I think that students going into technologically oriented fields need to think very seriously about doing hands-on activities, getting involved in robotics clubs or rocketry clubs, something where they are doing things hands-on and getting real-world experience, solving problems and making things work. So the lab that I co-founded at the Kennedy Space Center runs an annual robotics competition. In fact, I was at the Space Center today, and they asked if I would be a judge again this year, and I told them I would. And we do a space mining competition. We have every year something like 40 or 50 teams from around the nation, and in some years from around the world, show up with robots that they built. Sometimes they build the robots out of furniture parts that they cut off, because they were trying to be creative with very little budget. Or they build a robot that they can disassemble and put into their suitcases so they don't have to pay for shipping. We see all kinds of really crazy creative things happening. And I, as a scientist, learn more that 1 week of the competition than I do the other 51 weeks of the year, because we've got 50 teams of creative young people thinking differently and bringing their ideas for us to learn from. But the students, they get a lot of excitement, a lot of fun. They make connections, and we have sponsors for the competition that are giving us money to run the competition because they want to recruit the students to come work for them. And some of these companies are really big name companies, and they tell us they have a hard time finding good employees. It's not like there aren't jobs out there. From their perspective, they've got the jobs. They're looking for the people that have the enthusiasm and demonstrated that they have the get up and go. So I like to tell students, do that sort of thing. Also, when you're in college, go for the space clubs, do the networking. I think it's really important for educators to help students find those opportunities and encourage them to get involved in that. There's a pipeline of extracurricular activities that's been being set up very intentionally so that students can go from elementary school activities to high school after-school activities to college club activities in a pipeline that'll bring them all the way into the employment opportunities after college.
Wow, great stuff. All right. Well,
that 10 minutes goes fast, and we really appreciate you sharing and coming on the show. And if people wanted to learn more about you or the competition, is there any place they could go to connect with you or connect with the competitions or learn more about some of the things you shared today?
Sure. Well, I don't know the website off the top of my head, but if they do an internet search for NASA Robotic Mining Competition, they can find out about that. We do broadcast it live every year. It's a lot of fun to watch. We have a lot of interviews between the competition cycles. If they want to follow me on Twitter, PhilTill777 is my handle. I tweet about space and about these things, these topics. And I have a website, philipmetzger.com/blog, where I have some articles about space mining, space resources.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show with us, and we'd love to spend more time with you, but boy, it goes fast, and I sure learned a lot.
Yeah, I did too.
Great. So thanks for coming on, and thanks for watching, Mom and Dad.
Thanks for watching, Mom and Dad.